In this video, we're going to be finishing up our changes in demand worksheet by focusing on a new topic covering today called elasticity. Now, elasticity is one of the more kind of complicated, subtle ideas in microeconomics that we are going to cover. Now, it's not that difficult because it, once again, is something that you guys think about and consider all the time, almost every day when you're buying stuff. What elasticity is it's essentially dealing with what we're covering already with demand. We know that if you lower the price, people will buy more of something. And if you raise a price, people will buy less of something. That's the law of demand. What elasticity answers is this question: how much will people buy more or less of something determined by a certain change in price? To simplify it, it's this: if I change the price 10%, how much, if I lower the price 10%, how much more will people buy? Or if I raise the price 20%, how much less will they buy? Different items behave differently due to changes in price. And today we're going to study elasticity, which tries to answer that question. So as we start looking into this, we know that the law of demand means as I lower the price, people will buy less. So it would be a lower quantity of demand or quantity demanded. And if I, it would increase the quantity demanded. If I raise the price, people would want to demand less of the good. That's the law of demand. Remember, elasticity is saying, yeah, but how much more or less will they buy for a given change in price? So if you're looking at your worksheet right here at the top, we know what is demand elasticity. You have kind of two boxes for you to fit in there. So demand elasticity is essentially to what extent does a given change in price change the quantity demanded? Remember, price changes quantity demanded, not demand. So if you put demand, you're putting the wrong answer. So remember, it's to what extent does a given change in price affect the quantity demanded? Now, an easier way to go through it is kind of filling these blanks. And a little mnemonic device is this: price changes the quantity. And remember, quantity is the amount people want to buy. So I like to think of it dealing with things like elastic. Elastic is very stretchy. So something is demand elastic. If you pull it a little, it stretches a lot. The stretch is the change in quantity, which will go right about there. So the thing is, with elastic, if I go ahead and I change the pull or price, they both start with a P. So pull and price, if you keep remembering, those are kind of the same thing here. If I change the pull a little, it'll stretch a lot. So what that means is demand is elastic when a given change in price, so a standard change in price, causes a larger change in the quantity demanded. So in other words, a relatively blank change in price, remember price is like pull, so a relatively small change in price will cause a relatively larger change in the amount demanded. So if I had like a little rubber band right here, I could pull it just a little bit and it's going to stretch a lot. Small change in price or pull causes a large change in quantity. Now, if we go to inelastic, well, that's going to be essentially the opposite. If you think of something that's inelastic, like this piece of paper right here, that means a given change in price causes a smaller change in the quantity demanded. That means if the price changes a lot, the quantity people will buy changes very little. So it'll be kind of like this piece of paper here that I can, it's an envelope, it's several layers, that I can pull it a lot. And if you look at it, like there's a lot of pull, a large change in price, but the quantity or how much it's stretching, very small. So what that means is this: in other words, a relatively large change in price or pull, if you want to kind of have that little mnemonic device, a relatively large change in price will cause a relatively small change in the amount demanded. So that means I can change a price a lot, but people still buy about the same amount. So some examples here to get this in your head is this. If you're going to like the cereal aisle at your store and you see all the different cereals that are there and you're trying to decide which one you want to buy. Let's say you want to buy some Raisin Bran. Now, if all those cereals are $3 a box, if Raisin Bran raises their price, let's say something small, like they raise it like 50 cents, okay? So they've changed their price about, what, 18%. So they increase their price 18%. How much less Raisin Bran do you think is going to be sold? The answer is a lot more than 18%. They probably lose like 50% of their sales because you look at all the cereal boxes that are $3, $3, $3, $3, and you see one that's $3.50. You don't buy that one. You're probably going to buy a lot more of the other ones. Now, some people still buy Raisin Bran, but they'll buy less. So, and the answer is, in general, the market will buy a lot less. On the other hand, let's say Raisin Bran cut their price 50 cents, so now they're $2.50. So you're looking at the cereal aisle going, I don't know which one I want to go buy, and you see $3, $3, $3, $3, but one of them is $2.50. That one looks like a much better deal. So you're probably going to buy a lot more Raisin Bran now that they've lowered their price 18%. So their sales will probably double, and in effect, you'd buy less of the other ones. So that would be elastic. A small change, an 18% change in price causes a much larger change in the quantity of that good that you'll buy. On the other hand, we have things like that are inelastic. Goods that are inelastic means that if the price changes a lot, the amount you buy doesn't change as much. An example would be gasoline. Now, we're not talking about a gas station. That would actually be very elastic. But if we're talking about gasoline as a whole, for example, gasoline right now is remarkably low. It's about $1.70 or below. But let's imagine that, and that's actually been a big price change. If we go back a year, gas was, it was probably like 60% more expensive. Okay, so it was much more expensive. And how much did you buy then? The answer is pretty close to how much you would be buying now. Yeah, its price went down and you're like, great, I get to save a lot of money, but you don't go ahead and fill your tank up, just twice because of it. You're not going and just taking your gas pump and filling gas cans and going like, yay, look at all the gas that I have, knowing that it's still going to stay at that price. You buy the gas you need. Your parents buy the gas they need. They drive to work, you go on road trips. Now you might buy a little bit more, you might drive a bit more, but not a whole lot more. So I can raise the price of gas a lot, but the quantity will only change a little bit. That's inelastic. See the price changed a lot, but the quantity changed a little. So that's the difference between elastic and inelastic. Now, going on, there's another type called unit elastic. And unit elastic is when a change in price will cause an equal change in quantity demanded. So what that means is this. If I go ahead and raise the price 30%, quantity would decrease 30%. It would be an equal change no matter what I do. So a big change in price would be a big change in quantity, and a small change in price would be a small change in quantity, and they would always balance out. So that's what unit elastic means. So elastic means that a small change in price causes a big change in quantity demanded. Inelastic means that a big change in price causes a small change in quantity, and unit elastic means that it's an equal change in regards to price and quantity in a percentage way. So one thing you also need to know is what the graphs look like. So we have graph A and graph B right here. So graph A has a much flatter curve in regards to chart B. So this demand curve, if you notice, is flatter. And what that means is if I have a smaller change here, so I go from price here to here, and it's small change, one would intersect and be at this price, and that other smaller one would intersect and be here. What that means is that a smaller change in price would go way down this curve because it's a lot flatter, causing a much larger change in quantity. So flatter curves tend to increase, flatter curves mean a small change in price causes a big change in quantity. On the other hand, in chart B, you can have a large change price. So I can have price here, and I can have a price here. Now, the price up here goes ahead and gives me this quantity at this spot. The price down here goes ahead and gives me this quantity at this spot. And notice those two differences are very small for how big a gap the change in price is. So more steeper curves tend to be more inelastic. And that means that a larger change in price tends to cause a much smaller change in quantity at the bottom. So just one thing, a steeper curve in relation to the other one is inelastic. A flatter curve tends to be more elastic. All right, now for this down here, this is going to be pretty easy for you guys. All you need to do is answer these questions, which are yes or no. The idea is this, it can be a little bit different for different people. So I'm not really up in arms, and don't go like, I don't know how to answer this. You do, you're the one buying it, you're the one determining the answer. So for example, we've already used gasoline. Can you wait to buy gasoline? The answer to that one is pretty much no. When you need gas, you can maybe wait a day or two, but you really can't wait weeks or months for the gas prices to change. So you cannot wait for gasoline. Are adequate substitutes for gasoline available? Yes, there are substitutes, but not adequate. You can't put diesel in a gasoline tank. It'll make your car create a smoke screen. It's super bad for it. Don't do that. So are there adequate substitutes, especially where all of you guys live? The answer is no, because public transit isn't very good. We live very far apart, so you need a car to really get around. So an adequate substitute for gasoline, not available. In New York City, that could be a different question, but we live in Tampa. Does it use a large portion of your income? Well, a single purchase of gasoline really doesn't. So on that one, we could also put no. Now, you guys might be a little bit different because you might not have a lot of money and that's all you spend your money on, but does it use a large portion of income? Typically, no. So we said, can you wait to buy it? Are adequate substitutes available? Large portion of income, it really doesn't matter. Because you said no to a majority of these answers, the type of elasticity would be inelastic. So if you say no to these things, it makes it more inelastic. If you say yes, it'll make it more elastic. For example, dairy milk here. Can you wait to buy milk? That's kind of an optional one. Let's go with a no, because your cereal's not going to, have milk in itself, and we don't want to eat dry cereal. Okay, are there adequate substitutes available? Wow, that has changed in the last decade. It used to be no, and now the answer is yes. With a lot of almond milks and cashew milks and soy milks, there are pretty good substitutes to your average dairy milk. So are adequate substitutes available? We'd say yes. So can you wait to buy milk? We could say yes to that or no. That's really up to you. On this one, adequate substitutes, yes. Is it a large portion of your income? Milk typically isn't a large portion of your income. So this could be, if I put yes, I can wait to buy milk, and yes, there are substitutes available. A large portion of your income, I put no. I put two yeses and a no. That would make milk more elastic. But if you put no, I can't wait to buy milk, yeah, there's substitutes, and no, it's not a large portion, that would make it more inelastic. So the whole option here depends on you. What do you think these things are going to be? And for those of you guys who don't understand what a pork belly is the abdominal wall of a pig. And that's what we use to make bacon. So go ahead and answer these to the best extent that you can. And then if it's more no's, that would make it more inelastic. And if it's more yeses, so it's 2 out of 3, that would make it more elastic. And you should be able to fill this part out on yourself and get an idea of what kind of goods are more elastic and which are more inelastic. I hope this goes ahead and answered your questions. Good luck with your guys' worksheet, and I will see you on the next assignment when we start covering supply.